like to welcome to the stage now some of my colleagues from the Fine Arts Division. First of all, Jeff Miller from theater. You've met Sarita Kwok from music, and I'm David Rocks, also from the music department. So the format for the remainder of our time today is pretty much just to ask some questions to Warren, but also to invite other members of the panel to answer the questions as they might pertain to their own life. The first question that I have, Warren, involves why there are so many pieces of classical music to prepare, and you have this wide range of pieces from which to choose. Why did you choose the Beethoven, for example? Why did you play the Beethoven for us, and why did you study and prepare the Beethoven?
I hope you have experienced what you just experienced. I am not saying, actually, it felt one of those sublime experiences for me. And it's not every time that you perform you get that, but having a great audience and being a great place, that felt very spiritual to me. And that is actually one of the most spiritual, defined pieces of music that has ever been written. Beethoven was going through a very difficult time. At the time this piece was written, loss of hearing, trying to take care of his nephew, and the nephew actually committed suicide. And it's a very difficult period, but yet he wrote, well, he's never heard that piece himself, as beautiful as that. And for me, this is just such a spiritual place. So I have a whole range of program for my concerts elsewhere, but when I was asked to do it, there's just no question that this is the place to play 109. So to answer you in brief, it's just perfect fit, I think.
That's great. Could you maybe share a little bit about your own faith journey? Did you come from a Christian family?
I came from a Catholic. I was baptized a Catholic, but then I went to a Christian school, St. Paul's Educational College, where I now work. And I've always gone to Christian school, so I've brought up in a Christian way. And my faith was very important to me, especially, you might have heard Dr. Kwok introduction of me. I gave my debut performance with the Hong Kong Philharmonic under televised broadcast when I was 6. So the media loved that and called me a child prodigy. And then a lot of TV shows invited me to perform. But instead of, trying to be famous and reap benefits from it, my teacher and also my school taught me humility, through the Bible, and turned everything down, made me a very down-to-earth person, because with fame and with pride, there comes, evil. So I was very, very fortunate to have this faith in me early on. Otherwise, I could be a performing monkey, all over. So I was very grateful to have this faith journey.
And I think that that's a wonderful legacy that your family gave you, and your teachers gave you, and your mentors gave you. There are many examples where the superstar element can really take over our lives, and to give honor to God, realizing that everything that we have is a gift from Him, and we are stewards of those gifts. You're also a composer. Could you talk a little bit about the kind of composing that you do?
I write mostly for my school choirs to sing. They sing in worship. They also sing in concerts and competitions. And this process of composing, I'm trained as a pianist, and I actually do most of my activities on the piano. But composing, for me, the process of it, it's on many occasions, it's very spiritual, because you would compose a melody, and then after a while, after a few days, you said, where did that come from? That it was good, or it could be bad, but it was mostly good, especially the good ones. I would just sit back and say, where did that come from? And we all know where it come from. It come from God. And I wrote a musical about 18 months ago in the space of a week. It just flowed out of my hand. So I was merely an instrument of God. And in composing, I feel that all the time. And in performing, sometimes we do, but sometimes there are frustrations, and we blame ourselves for not practicing enough. But on rare occasions, like I just had now, there are certain moments in the piece that I was just letting my fingers, be an instrument of God.
Mm.
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned practicing. Now, as a pianist, I'm a brass player, and most of the music that I make is with other people. And I've always viewed pianists as sort of being solitary in a lot of what they do. When we practice as musicians, we often practice in solitude. We have to. But it's interesting that you're a composer, which to me, in one sense, is also a solitary kind of activity, but there's also a communal aspect to that too. You're composing not for yourself, but for others. Do you often see a dichotomy between the solitude of being a pianist and the communal aspect of being a composer?
Yes, and I think it's a general rule for a musician. I think we all have this sort of mix of locking yourself up in the practice room for hours, even though at times you don't want to. But through music, it also brings me to places like Gordon College, and I get to see the world through music and get to meet people from different backgrounds and cultures, but have the same passion for music. Mm-hmm. And that's such a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. And it makes all this solitude worthwhile. Mm-hmm. Time being away from family as well. It's not only when I'm on tour, even at home I have to turn my young kids away, say, Daddy's practicing, so come back in 4 hours. It's tough to do. Even at home, I need to do that. But, and as you said, I'm a custodian of the gifts that I was given. And I feel responsible and accountable for them. So I have to make certain sacrifice. Mm-hmm. If that answer your question.
I want to open this up to Sarita and Jeff, talking a little bit about your own experience of practicing. Is that something that comes easy to you, Sarita? You're a violinist. Can you talk a little bit about your own experience of practicing?
Right. Well, firstly, thank you, Warren, for sharing that with us, your performance with us. That was incredible. Yes. So I just want to go back to a couple of the points that Warren mentioned. I think it's what made his performance so incredible is also just, and as he shared just now, is that he acknowledges ultimately the source of all of these gifts. God is the composer and the author of everything beautiful and of our ability to express and ultimately of music. And I think if we can acknowledge that, a lot flows. Mm-hmm. So making a joyful noise mm-hmm. with these gifts that we have is so important. And then along the lines of practicing, we're called to do everything to the best of our ability to the glory of God, Colossians 3, and so 23, I think it is. And so, practicing is important because we are stewards of this gift. And personally, I really like practicing. I wish I had more time to practice more. And I think the reason is that when I practice, I'm honing these skills that allows me to more accurately and fully and deeply express what I'm actually feeling. Mm-hmm. And so that's a wonderful thing. I feel like I can say more. It's like expanding your vocabulary, when I practice. And so,
Jeff, maybe you can say a little bit about rehearsing.
Yeah, my art form is not solitary.
In theater,
Which is ironic because I'm a solitary person. I'm a hermit by nature. And I think it's kind of God's joke that I have to do my art with lots of people. People I like and enjoy. But and I find I love rehearsal. If I never got to perform, I would be disappointed. But the rehearsal is a joy in itself because part of my joy as a director is watching the growth of my students, watching them get it, watching them understand something and get this pacing in this moment. And that's thrilling just in and of itself. Or me understanding a text better and communicating it. But hours and hours. And when I think of the hours I've spent in a dark room or with a group of people creating scenes, it's hours and hours and hours. And if I didn't enjoy it, I don't think I could continue to do it. And I'm sure that's the case. Mm-hmm. Can I ask him something really quick? One of the things I wanted to also say, if any of you are interested in his work, please go to his website. There's some wonderful things on it. In addition to the classical work, the compositions have not just a somber tone, but some of the pieces he's written, House Rules, talk about these young kids are singing about the decorum in a concert. And another piece he wrote for littler kids is a piece called The Dream of the Plastic Bag, and they actually use plastic bags in their singing and balloons that deflate, and it's just lovely. It's beautiful how you get these kids excited about choral music. But do you have any techniques in rehearsal that you use? I mean, obviously you have to repeat and repeat, and I would imagine that you break things down into sections, but are there some techniques that you use?
I actually spent a lot of time thinking about practicing because I was not the hardest working kid when I grew up. I try to think of the shortest way to get the most done. So I developed a course called The Art of Practicing. And there are books about it, actually called Deep Practice and the Talent Code. Basically, the rules of slow practice is always there, but you need to break it down, and you also need to think and design certain exercise to get to the root cause of the problems. So not just repeating. Repeating doesn't help. And the level of concentration you need for deep practice is so much that you can't actually do 2 hours, more than 2 hours in one go. So you should just practice 4 hours, just 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. And you need to sort of rest in between to get that mental level. So if you practice 8 hours, probably 4 hours would be a waste. And one of the things that's said on the book, if you're doing deep practice, is inherently not enjoyable. So if you're enjoying yourself in the 4 hours, you enjoy in a higher level, but you're constantly looking for things to improve. So you're working on the things that you're not good at. And
you're working on your faults.
Yes, and you have to go deep down to find the root cause. And that's not enjoyable. Actually, I enjoy doing that. Now, if you're used to it, I'm sure Sarita will have the same experience. We actually enjoy working on our faults. And what I do, actually, now when I'm on tour, when I have a series of concerts, the first thing I do after this, and after all the activities I have here, I'll go and practice and work on the faults that I had.
This is true because he asked, is there a place I can practice 2 hours later today? And I said, we'll probably be able to find you a room over in Phillips Music Center. I tell my students in private lesson situations that you have to become your best teacher. You're with yourself in the practice room all the time. And when you are with yourself, you have to know those faults, and you have to know how to best use your time. And it becomes a wonderful way to really become your own best teacher. I think that people who practice effectively learn to be that way. I really do.
Yep.
Well, maybe you could say a little bit about some of your mentors. Who's been your mentor, and how have they impacted you musically or artistically or spiritually?
I have 3. The first one, it's my piano teacher when I was 6. When I made that debut, she was a very, very strict teacher. She turned down all the gigs, right? Stopped me from being rich. But she was so strict. She used to beat me with a baton, and the baton would break, and I was like 8. And she was strict with everything, my diet and everything. So she taught me that being a teacher, a mentor, is more than just teaching the skills. And I have that in me now. My second mentor, music mentor, it's my professor at Yale, Boris Berman. He's also very strict, so I like strict teachers. Russian and very scary. On the surface, he's actually very warm. He taught me how to think about music, not just play. There would be lessons 3 hours long. I would just play for about 15 minutes, and he would just question me until I can't answer for the rest of the lesson. You don't get to play the piano again. So he made me think about music. And the third one, as a human being, is my role model, and it's Robert Blocker, whom visited here, I think, a few years ago. The dean of the Yale School of Music, probably your mentor as well. He is an administrator, a teacher, an artist, and I'm doing sort of all sorts of things. I'm doing administrative work and all that. And he is the one, sometimes, when I have to go home, after 8 hours of work at the desk, and to go home and practice, and I'm so tired, and I have kids, and I still have to practice. Sometimes I ask myself, why am I doing this? I could just have a full-time, administrative job and just live as comfortably. But he reminded me that keep playing, it's what makes all the other work that I do meaningful. That's why I, write proposals to get grants and, raise money for better pianos. If you don't continue to be an artist, then it loses the meaning of, an arts administrator. So those are my 3 very important influences in my life.
And that's actually how Warren and I met, was through Robert Blocker, who also was a mentor of mine. Warren and I attended Yale at different times, but shared the same mentor. I think that's actually something great that a mentor does, is to make connections like this. And like Warren, I also was reminded by Robert of the importance of continuing to play and to express yourself through art, and that does make everything else worthwhile, I think.
We're just about out of time, but I wanted to also ask a question, and this is something that, as an advisor of students are always trying to figure out how to use their time in the most efficient way, and there never seems to be enough time, and you have all of these things that you want to do, and one of the phrases that I've often used is, the good can become the enemy of the best. You are a musician, you're an artist, you're practicing, but you have families, you have responsibilities. How do we balance all of that? How do we decide what is the best and what is the enemy of the best?
You've got to really actually sit down and think about where you want to be. It's having a vision of where you want to be 5 years, 10 years down the road, and let that be the guiding force. And I wanted to be the best artist I can be. So you will have to sometimes make sacrifice and turn down things that you sort of like to do, but it's not the most important thing. You have to be disciplined with time management, but also be disciplined to pursue what you really, what your true calling is. So looking for your true calling, I think it's very important, and then the rest will come.
And God leads us to those callings as we
course.
seek Him, and
Yes.
as we seek the counsel of Christian friends and wise people. Well, we're just about out of time, but I want to thank Warren Lee on our panel. Thank you so much for being with us
Thank you
today.
for having me. Thank you.
And thank you. You are dismissed. God bless you.